right, we are here at my Vermihut indoor worm bin, and there's three things we wanted to go over today. And the first one is, are we at 50-50 castings yet? Right now we can't tell because we haven't dug in, but we'll check on that. We want to check in on our last feeding. It was a little bit lighter feeding, but we did have 3 apple cores in here, and I believe that's on this side because you can see the slope going up and down. And then finally, we're gonna see if there's lots of worms in here. We did put in a 3rd tray on the bottom, kind of unusual, and that was in our last video from this worm bin, but there was just so many worms up here and maybe some of them went down, we'll see. So let's go ahead and get into it. And the first thing you notice is that there is basically very little newspaper to speak of compared to what we had. So it's really not indicating anything for us, and we'll just have to form a new newspaper. But we'll go ahead and just kind of scrape the top here and see what we have. Now we know that this is the feeding zone because it's higher, so we might as well just go right in there. Usually in my worm bins, the deeper I go, the more castings I find. And right away, we're finding some wigglers here. I feel like I'm noticing a lot more castings everywhere. And yeah, right away, all kinds of worms. And these banana stems that end up staying longer. And this is a banana peel right here. And oh, wow. Here we go. These apple cores really, oh, and I can feel it underneath. These apple cores really are good at creating worm balls. Right there. Here's some of the bedding that we use, toilet paper rolls, but right in here, there are tons of worms. And right here, I can see the end of a red wiggler versus some of the blue worms that are in here. So they're mixing and matching and having no problems here. Again, you can see a clitellum of a fatter red wiggler. But here's that apple core. They just swarm over the apple cores. That's pretty neat. So if you're looking for a worm ball, throw in an apple core and you'll see. Now this is 7 days since our last feeding, and these worms look like they are doing so good in here. So we'll set this aside and just keep digging. So even though it was a lighter feeding, some of the bigger stuff like the apple core, or I should say the slow stuff like the apple core, are still in there. Now this feels a lot more wet than I've felt in the past, and that may be because I literally did not lift the lid or check on it since we last fed. And man, there are lots of worms just everywhere. We may have to go even lighter on the feeding just based on seeing that apple core. But yeah, look at that. Look at just all the worms all throughout. So I think, let me just keep digging a little bit more before we decide if we're at 50-50, because I feel like we are extremely close. And I keep putting bedding in every feeding, so it's not 50-50 from when we started. And when I say 50-50, I mean castings to bedding ratio. And if we're not there, we're close. We'll have to dig around all around the sides, but look at that. Just a tower of bedding and worms. And, do we think that there are as many worms in here as our last feeding where we kind of showed them off? I think there are. I think they've all kind of stayed up here. And man, this smells fantastic. It just smells like walking through a forest, or right after it rains. It smells so good. Oh my gosh, look at that right there. That is just remarkable. They're in every handful, like literally feels like hundreds in every handful. This is good. And the volume's looking good too. I like to keep the volume up as we get closer to finishing, and I think we said we're about a month and a half from finishing. And now with a Vermihut bin like this, or any tower bin, you don't have to get to finished casting. You can just put another tray right on, whereas in a non-tower system, you're kind of letting each individual bin get to finished castings before you're moving on to the next bin. And this one, you kind of let the bottom tray and the middle tray continue to work. We're not there yet, but we're obviously getting closer every time. Here is some grape stem that we had put in. I don't expect the stem to, you know, disappear very quickly. In fact, maybe not at all. It may just be something that keeps going into the next bins, etc. But that's where that came from. So I think we've kind of dug everything out. I don't know if I got to the absolute corner here. I feel a peach seed, which is never, ever going to break down. But I mean, you can see just wiggling around. These little pieces of apple, I think there was 1 or 2 that we found, are the only food that's left. Everything else got digested or turned into castings. So I'm gonna put those back in the feeding zone. I'm gonna reset the feeding zone here. I think we can call this 50-50. This is 50-50, especially, which is amazing, you know, that this was straight cardboard, shredded cardboard, and no castings added into it. And now to see it like this is just amazing. And I think I'll do a broader feeding zone, and we'll do it right here in the middle. I just gotta look at this guy. Look how fat and chunky that red wiggler is right there compared to the other worms. There we go. So yeah, we'll do kind of a broader feeding zone, and maybe that'll allow them to get to it better. So we'll start with some bedding. Put that in. And then you know what? I think this might have been part of the tomato. I think it's either tomato or apple, but maybe we'll look back and look at the pictures. But we'll put this stuff that was kind of uneaten, some of the bigger paper right there, and then we'll go in with our food. Here was the plan. Overcome by events. We are not going to put all of this in there, but we will put some of the stuff that they like, and there's some worms in there. This is not still, it was frozen, but I let it thaw out a little bit, but I still don't want to get them too cold here. If there's any worms on there, which is why I like to put the bedding down, because the liquid can melt into there and also kind of protects the worms. This little piece of banana, straight up banana, will definitely be gone. So are these strawberries. I will tell you what, they go through strawberries like nobody's business. And these look like good strawberries I could have eaten, but they're not, if you were to get up close. A lettuce head, which of course we know by now, goes really quick. We'll put in a mango peel, always fun to see how long that lasts. I think another piece of apple, and then some more of these. And I think that'll do it as far as the feeding goes. Of course, we'll put in the coffee that we always do. And that's just another food source for them. Very finely grated, so it's easier for them to get to. And then pulverized eggshells for grit that I just let dry and then put in a little magic bullet blender. You know, if you have a coffee grinder, that kind of thing, that can work for you too. But we'll go ahead and cover this up, and if you want to see how this bin originated, you can go to my channel, subscribe, and I've got 3 playlists, one for each of the bins that I have. And from there you can see the bins from start to finish castings and kind of see how to run a worm bin from start to finish. But we'll just continue to cover up, and again, you'll see low point, higher point, low point again, and there's those grape stem. I'm just gonna bury them over here. But this bin is looking really good. I would say we're at 50-50 castings. We kind of looked at the old feeding zone, and they ate most of it except for those apples. They were still going after, and they were attacking it pretty well. So got to see some good worm balls there. But I think that'll about do it for us. Afterwards, I'll get a piece of newspaper to put over here, and I think that'll do it. So hope everybody's having a great day, and happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.